Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name's Holly and I am a doll artist based in the UK. Today I'm going to restore this vintage Susie Sad Eyes doll that I purchased on eBay. She is a 1960s to 1970s doll, and as you can see she is in quite a poor condition. She's very dirty, she's been unloved for many years, and I'm going to bring her back to her former glory and give her a brand new hair and new clothes and maybe some tattoos as well. These dolls were cheaply made and mass produced back in the 1960s to 70s. They often came in different varieties, so you can find them with different hair colours and different outfits too. Sometimes you'd find the dolls by different names. There is one called Susie Slicker, which comes with a raincoat, and there's also a darker skinned version called the Soul Sister. She's a bit more rare to find and a bit more pricey if you do manage to find one on the second-hand market. The book I'm currently going through is called Susie Sad Eyes by Gina Garan. Gina is a photographer based in New York. Her photography of the early 2000s is said to have brought about the craze that we know today for big-eyed dolls such as Blythe and Susie Sad Eyes. Did you know that these dolls were actually created in response to the very famous paintings of Margaret Keane? We'll talk more about that later. You can tell these dolls weren't made with a lot of care and attention. They are quite cheaply made, and the body is quite a firm but soft plastic. The face is a soft vinyl. As you can see, the dress has seen better days, and so that does need a good wash. She also has some staining on her legs as well, which I don't believe I'll be able to remove, but I can give it a try. So the main part of her customization today is I'm going to give her some brand new hair. This hair is a beautiful soft suri alpaca, which I'm going to dye with this black hair dye. This is very cheap hair dye. I wouldn't personally recommend using it on yourself, but for dolls I think it's fine. It comes with a developer and a hair colour cream, and obviously the gloves, you do need those because, as you might notice later on, it does actually stain your fingers even through the glove. So we're going to start with a glass of warm water. Make sure it's not completely boiling because we don't want to melt the plastic, but it needs to be warm enough to be able to soften the plastic a little bit so we can later remove the head. The water will hopefully soften the glue inside of the head, and that will hopefully make it easier for us to remove the hair later on. I'm just adding a little bit of hand soap because that will help the glue loosen as well, and also give her a good clean. Just moving her around in the water, make sure the water is getting all there in the neck and softening the plastic. Now I am ready to remove the head. As you can see, the plastic has become quite soft and there's a lot of water underneath there, which is helping remove that. The dolls were made simply, so the head does just slide off this ball joint here, and you do not have any risk of damaging the doll by doing this either. I'm going to be using a simple tweezer to get inside the neck and pull the hair from the inside. It takes a lot of work and it's actually really painful for your fingers, so I really don't like this process. It takes a long time to remove the hair. Sometimes it just won't budge at all, so I just go in and pull the hair out. Sometimes she might need another soak as well with some soapy water. I decided to go in with some scissors this time just to cut off the main chunks of hair. That might give me more satisfaction knowing that I'm actually getting through this. I'll get there in the end. So what's interesting about these dolls is they were actually inspired by the paintings of Margaret Keane. If you're into big eyes or surrealist painting, you might recognise them. It's actually a really interesting story what happened to Margaret, as her husband actually took the credit for most of her work throughout her life. Margaret spent many years hiding in the shadows while her husband took the credit for her paintings. They became extremely successful and made a lot of money from the work. They were really popular at the time. I'd really recommend you to watch the film Big Eyes, directed by Tim Burton, if you'd like to find out more about this story. I really like the style of Margaret's paintings and see the emotion reflected in the eyes of the children. I think that's why I'm drawn to the Susie Sad Eyes doll, because they have so much emotion in those big eyes. This big clump of hair in the centre was just not having any of it, so I had to bring in the big guns. The pliers were a little bit better at pulling out the hair, but it still took me such a long time. Like I said, it's not my favourite part of the process, but it's so satisfying when you finally get rid of all that hair. I had to rewind this part because it was just so satisfying to finally get that last niggly piece of hair out of the doll's head. As you can see, she's now completely bald, and I'm also a bit scared. Did I make the right choice by choosing to customise this doll? I'm just soaking her again, just to finally remove any residue of glue that might be stuck inside. Remember, it's been years, this doll was created back in the 60s, so she's had a lot of grime and build up throughout the years. On the head there is a bit of excess plastic that I'm just going to snip off. It doesn't really need to be done, but I just feel like it makes the doll look a lot nicer and gives a smoother base for when we finally make the wig cap. Now I'm going in with my trusty scalpel, and on the doll's body there is quite a lot of excess plastic that's left quite a sharp edge. So I'm just going to go in and carefully remove any excess plastic. Obviously be careful at home with any sharp tools. So now I'm going in with a sponge and I'm just washing away any final bits of grime and muck, using a little bit of soap and water on the sponge and cleaning up the body too. After I'm satisfied that she's nice and clean, I go back in with a dry cloth and make sure that I get inside the head and dry out any leftover water. After drying, it's time to put on her head again, so I'm using a hairdryer just to soften the plastic slightly, and then her head should be able to slide on quite easily back onto the body. And there she is, she's lovely and clean and she's ready for her new hair. And here we have her freshly hand-dyed suri alpaca locks. I did the dyeing off camera just because it is a messy process. You can see me just washing it out here. And I'm just trying out a variety of different looks for Susie. Let me know in the comments if you would have gone for a fringe like her traditional style or the side part. So to make the wig cap, I'm using the stretchy fabric of an old pair of tights and also some cling film. I am sorry Susie, but we're going to have to cover your face today. So just cover the doll with the plastic film. I'm just making sure that the plastic film is nice and smooth to her head, and then I secure this with an elastic band. I then go ahead with the fabric and cover the head the same way, making sure it's nice and tight and smooth over the head. For the next part, we're going to need some kind of smooth surface. So I'm just using this piece of plastic. We're also going to need some PVA glue and a small brush. So to start with the hair, we're going to start by separating it into smaller, more manageable chunks. So I'm just cutting off a piece here. As you can see, the end is quite fluffy, so I'm just going in with a dog brush just to smooth that end out. And then further separating just to create a small weft. So I start by putting a thin layer of the PVA glue onto the board, and then after gently pressing the hair into the glue, I then go over with another layer of PVA. Just make sure that you get in between all the hairs so that sticks nice and firmly onto the piece of plastic. And here we have the first weft on the board ready to dry, and we just go ahead and do the same process for as much of the hair as we can. I did end up making 2 whole sheets of the wefts, going all the way around the outside edge of the A4 sheet of plastic. It was actually quite hard to film this, so I've just cut out a little bit there. After waiting around 2 to 3 hours, I came back in and started to clean up the dried wefts. I'm just trimming off the excess glue with some scissors. And now we're left with a nice bunch of hair wefts ready to glue onto the head. So again, we're going to be using a PVA glue, and we're going to start by just covering the whole head with a generous layer of glue. I actually did 2 layers here, drying in between each layer. You have to make sure it's completely dry. You can leave it to dry naturally if you have the patience and the time, which I obviously don't. When the wig cap has finally dried, you can go ahead and start to cut around the shape of the face. After cutting around the wig cap, I then remove the plastic film, take off the wig cap from the plastic film, put it back on her head, and then we can see what more needs to be taken off and create a better shape. And then going back in with the scissors, I'm just going to cut around in more detail around the ears and create a more natural shape. Now I'm putting back on the plastic wrap, sorry Susie. And place back the wig cap onto her head. And then finally we're ready to do the fun part, which is making her wig. Again, we're using a clear PVA glue, a little receptacle to hold the glue, a small paintbrush, I should really clean my paintbrushes a bit better next time, and scissors, and here we have the wefts. Of course, by this point I was really exhausted. I'd probably eaten my way through this whole bag of jelly babies. Okay, so let's start the wig making process. So I'm just going to start by putting a thin layer of the PVA glue on the very bottom of the wig cap, and then taking one of the small wefts, I'm just going to press that weft onto the very bottom, pressing it down onto the wig cap and then covering again with a thin layer of PVA glue. I then go ahead and repeat the process for the whole bottom row of hair. After you finish the bottom row, you can then go ahead and start to build up the hair behind the back of the ears. This is where the hard work really starts to pay off. I'm just building up the layers of wefts, and eventually that gap will close in until she's got just a little bald spot on the very top of her head. When making wigs, I always find that I gravitate to working on the back first, and then depending on the hairstyle, I'll then move into the fringe or the parting line, as this can be the trickiest part of the wig. I really enjoy working with suri alpaca fibre, and because it's so soft and light, it doesn't weigh down the doll at all. Because it's a natural fibre and it's cruelty free, it's also a good one to use because you can dye it in any colour you want. The possibilities are actually endless for the types of wigs you can make. So I finally get around to the front of the wig. I'm just creating a fringe. I decided to go for a straight across fringe or bangs, and I'm just building up the layers of the wefts here, making sure that I've got enough left to do the parting in the centre. So after I've left that to dry, I'm just gently peeling off the wig. Now, using my scalpel, I'm just going to go into the middle, into the centre, and I'm going to gently cut away a tiny slash into the fabric of the wig cap. I just go in with scissors just to make sure that I've got a tiny hole there. And then with a weft, we're going to gently fold the glued part in two, just to make that easier to go through the hole. And then from the outside, I just push gently that glued weft through the hole. I will put a small piece of glue on the inside of the wig cap, and then I press the hair down into the glue to secure it. As you can see from the outside, it looks like it's just sprouting from that tiny hole. I just put the hair back onto the doll just to double check. And then I go ahead and I do the same thing with some more wefts. I probably use about 5 to 6 pieces of hair here, and just do the same by poking them through that little hole, gluing them on the inside. Because the hair is so thin, it doesn't really make any lumps or bumps underneath the wig cap. It is quite nice and flat to the head. I then put the wig back on the doll, and I'm using some pins just to secure the hair in place. And then with those pieces of hair, I'm just putting a tiny piece of glue underneath and spreading the hair out, pressing gently onto the glue just to create a nice finish. You can see where the hair is sprouting out, it has a nice clean finish and look to it. After I've left the hair to dry for another couple of hours, it's then time to do the fun part, which is cutting the hair. I'm really not a hairdresser by any stretch of the imagination, so I just go in and do what I think looks good. I wanted her to have kind of an anime style haircut. I think this one is called the Hime cut. Hime means princess, so I think that suits my Susie quite well. I'm just going to cut off those straggly thinner ends and give her a nice clean finish. And then I'm going back in with the dog brush and some finer scissors, and I'm just going to straighten up that haircut and make it look nice and finished. And here you can see the finished wig. I really like how it turned out. I think it looks really cute. And I like how the black is not completely black. There is a little bit of brown showing through, which looks really cute. And finally I can release Susie from her plastic wrap and place on the wig, and she looks amazing. I had already picked out this cute outfit for her. She has a lovely hand knitted dress by Liz from Woolly Rockers and some cute high heeled shoes from AliExpress. And of course, no doll is complete without some tattoos. The decals that I'm going to be using are my own design. These can be found in my Etsy shop. I also have a full video on my YouTube channel on how to apply these, so you can see in depth how to use them. I have a few different design packs out at the moment, and they come in all different varieties and sizes, so you can find something that will suit your doll. I thought this pumpkin really suits the look of Susie, as she's perfect for Halloween. I finished the tattoo by applying a thin coat of matte varnish and leaving that to dry. And as you can see, I did add a few more tattoos. I think she looks really cool and really spooky, ready for the Halloween season. Let me know in the comments what you think to her transformation. And finally, here's some little videos from our trip to Whitby Goth weekend. I was planning to make a video about my experience here, so stay tuned if you want to see that. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video and the transformation of Susie. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please subscribe. Thank you.